Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 244.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey. Glad that you are here. And we have a very unique guest for you today. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics and what I hope to become one of your favorite topics too. Because here's the deal. When you are going to grow your business, build your cash flow, or make anything happen, guess what you must do? Well, you must learn to actually sell something. We talk about sales frequently. I've introduced you to many different people, but none quite so special, and you'll find out why in just a moment. What I want to say, though, is this is one of those skill sets that you don't really have a choice. So hopefully you're ready to take some notes and pay attention, because I know that today's guest can help you because he has trained over 18,000 other individuals, including myself. Yes, I am talking to today none other than Gregg. Who was that individual? When you hear me talk a lot about the person who helped me learn sales and told me to go to Toastmasters and do a bunch of things that I didn't want to do, that's who we are talking to today. Steven is the co-founder of Power Sales University, and he specializes in personal and corporate sales training, online and offline lead generation, direct sales and network marketing training, as well as personal development. And if nothing else, remember his motto: if you build the people will build the business. So hopefully you are ready to take notes and make some good stuff happen. Help me welcome Gregg. Steve, you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that.
Glad that you are here. This is kind of cool, introducing you to all the individuals. I guess we could say it's kind of your fault.
Well, it's just fun talking to you. And, we've kind of separated for a while, and just watching you do what you do, it's just been amazing to see how big you've grown your business. And I love watching that. I just love watching what you're doing right there. So I just appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on your show.
Yeah, this is kind of cool, and which is going to be interesting to ask the first question, because many, listening, they know the first question I'm about to ask, and it's kind of the same for most of our guests. I tend to look at today's superheroes, or today's entrepreneurs, a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So, you've got Batman, Robin, Hulk, all of the superheroes. Well, the thing about a superhero is before they were super, they probably weren't so super or very impressive. They were just normal individuals, i.e. they had an origin story. So what I would love for you to do is everybody wants to know, before you were training thousands of people, before you and I was following you around at networking events and being me. Before all of that and the impact that you have had, who is Gregg?
Wow. I wasn't expecting that question today, but I definitely appreciate you asking, because, I definitely never want to forget. And I remember years ago when I first got into this business, I was 16. You don't even know this part, I was selling sewing machines in Oakland. And didn't sell any sewing machines. I was mostly sewing, wasn't really selling much because I didn't have the skill set. I was too shy, too insecure and stuff. But something happened back then where my mom used to work at a big electronics company in the Bay Area, and something happened and she got laid off of her job because they were bringing all the young whippersnappers in from the college. And at that day, I made a decision I was never going to work for anyone else again. I said, I'm never going to build a family and work for someone. I need to be my own business. I need to be entrepreneur so that I can take care of my family and not have to put my life on the line of someone else. So that's when I moved out to Los Angeles, and I got into car sales. started selling cars. And the problem was I didn't have a lot of skill set. I was very shy. I was very insecure. I didn't know how to talk to people in groups. One-on-one, I was pretty good one-on-one. But when it came to talking to groups of people, I was kind of like that frog, that shuts up when, gets around people on that cartoon. That was me. I wouldn't talk around a group of people. So I used to be very shy and insecure. But then, as I grew 10 years later, I got into direct sales and got into network marketing, and I failed a lot. I mean, I lost tens of thousands of dollars because of mistakes I've made, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I had no friends. I had no family that would help me. I had no mentors, and I didn't know what to do. I was the wrong person to be in sales at the time. But the biggest thing I had was a big dream that I believed in. I had a goal because I saw a video back in it was like 88, and it was called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And when I watched that video, it did something inside me and said, I got to do something for, my people in my community at the time. And I went after it. So I had to learn how to do something. I had to learn. And what I learned is that sales was the highest paid industry I could get into without a degree, without experience, without a lot of things. But, as we all go through, I had to go through that school of hard knocks. And I did for probably 12 to 14 years. I made no money, very, very little money in that industry, but I had a huge dream that I wanted to achieve. And that's kind of where I started, that's where I was. And then, of course, 12, 14 years later, things did change.
Well, hopefully, but there's a lot in what you just shared that I think a lot of us are going to be able to learn from. For example, you mentioned, I think one of the things that you said very interestingly is you mentioned more than once about skill set and how you didn't have a particular skill set either with the sewing machines or the cars, but yet you didn't let that prevent you from going into those industries. What drove that motivation?
Well, it's funny you say that because I thought about talking about this, but I said, nah, I'm not going to go there. But you know what? What actually happened is something unique. Back then, I used to watch a lot of TV and infomercials and stuff like that, and I got a video. Actually, back then it was a tape, and it was by a guy that does a lot of infomercials. And he was one of the kings of infomercial, and he sold me this tape called Mega Memory. And I didn't remember to watch the whole thing, but I did listen to one of the CDs or one of the tapes on that Mega Memory set. And it taught me one thing called the 4 levels of learning. And when I learned that, it taught me how my brain works. It taught me that my brain has to go through 4 stages to learn anything I want to learn. And when I learned that, I really got it. I didn't just hear it and say, okay, that's a good idea. I learned how my brain worked. So I knew from that point on, all I had to do was go through 4 stages of learning to learn anything I wanted to learn. So I had no fear of pursuing new opportunities or new, jobs or careers, I didn't have a job, but new careers and new sales positions, because I understood if someone was willing to teach me, my brain would go through the 4 stages to learn how to do it. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have anybody really to teach me, so I had to go through that, school of hard knocks, that very expensive one. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars that keeps on charging you even after you graduate. Right. That school, I had to learn from it, but those 4 levels is what kept me going. It was that driving force, of course, along with the big dream and big goal that I had. So learning that 4 levels of learning was more than important.
Well, one of the interesting things that I hope everybody else is hearing, if nothing else, is not once have you necessarily mentioned compensation or money. There's always something else driving. And you mentioned and hit on, you said the counting the movie, Counting the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, and you said I got to do something. And I like that level of, personal responsibility. It leads to the question, do you think for the entrepreneur listening today, the person who is considering getting in business, what's going to take them past this journey? Because as you have so eloquently put, it's not going to be, a smooth road. But you had, this tape, you had this, it seems like this mission at some point. Does it have to be that deep in order for someone to make it happen?
No, it doesn't have to be that deep. However, if you talk to everyone that's made something big happen, it's been that deep. So the answer is no, it doesn't have to. People can be average and mediocre with no big dream. People can be average and mediocre and get lucky, win the lottery, and be okay. But the people that do things that are extraordinary, the people that do the big goals, that achieve greatness in certain ways, most of the time there's a driving force, and it's much bigger than money. The money is the byproduct. You see, you and I, we've talked about this for many years. People don't have money problems; they have idea problems. And that's what I had. I had a money problem personally, financially, but I had a big, gigantic dream, and the money was going to come at some point. Now, my big dream that I had because of watching that video was the driving force for me, and watching what happened with my mom was the thing that stuck me into entrepreneurship. The 4 levels of learning is what kept me believing I could do it, because I understood that my brain just had to go through the 4 stages. Now I had to align myself with the right people that could teach me what I needed to know to accomplish my goals. Absolutely. Now that took a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to talk about being the wrong person as well. But there is something else that I know. If I don't ask this, someone's going to send me one of those emails and say, how come you didn't ask this question? You said it's 12 to 14 years. There's not a person that I am aware of who was excited to hear that, hey, it might take 12 to 14 years for me to get through this rough patch. So, can you unpack that for us a little bit and maybe give some of us a little bit more hope?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's 2 determining factors on that. One, where you start. You see, I started way back a book. I started with no skill set, with no mindset, no family, no friends, no education, no nothing. I started way back. That's the first part. So it depends on where you start will determine, how fast you can get to the level you want to get. The second thing is how big your dream is, how big the goal is. If you have a small goal, you want to get a new car, it doesn't take that long to get that. But my dream was, you should have seen this thing I wrote up. It was 4 pages about this thing called I Can Centers, where I wanted to help families and children and people all around the world. And there's going to be multiple centers all around the world. It's this big, gigantic dream. I'm still pursuing it at this point from a different perspective. But in the same way, I'm accomplishing that goal now. But because the dream was so big and I was so far back, yes, it took 12 years just to begin to learn what I needed to know to accomplish that goal. Yeah. If the goal is just to, succeed and win a contest, it doesn't take that much to get there. So those are the 2 main determining factors: is where you start and how big the dreaming goal is. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I just want to underscore that, because I was having a coaching call even earlier today, where he was remarking how what he was looking forward to doing was taking down his first 40 unit building. And it's very, very relative. For him, that 40 unit building is like, oh my God, this is big. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's great. Let me know, next week you should be done with that. That's kind of the attitude or difference, simply because relative position and relative size to the goal. I think that's what you're saying.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'll take that down to the 3rd grade level of how to communicate that message. Is what you have to do with a person, and this is where my training and that's why I love coaching so much, is you have to take a person as far as they can see. And when they get there, they'll see further. So he might only see a 40-unit building as being a big deal. To you, a 40-unit building is like, okay, can we get it done this weekend? Because you're already past that level. But see, when we're helping and coaching and mentoring people, we got to take them as far as they can see. If they, when you first started, I remember your first house, you had $115 a month check. You were fired up. You said, man, if I could just keep that going, I'd be fired up. See, but if you go talk to, one of those big wigs in the real estate industry, they'll be like, a good house, you got $115? That's cool. That's awesome. You see, in the same way, it's all relative. So for you and for the people listening, just got to remember, you got to go as far as you can see. Because as long as you can see it and you can believe it, then you can achieve it. But if you don't believe it or you can't see it happening, you won't even go for it.
What's really funny is that at some point during this episode, someone is going to say, he sounds just like Jay. No, guys. He's the guy I learned it from. And I think it's absolutely hilarious. Now, when you and I first met, let's just say that I did not have the skill set, and I was definitely not the person for sales at that moment. And we all have to go through this transition period. Talk about that transition period and for yourself. What did that consist of? How did you get through it? And what were the key components that made you or enabled you to get to the quote unquote other side?
That's an excellent question. No one's ever asked that one. But let me kind of go back. I remember in 1997, I had been through multiple companies, multiple direct sales companies, network marketing companies, trying to learn and figure this thing out. But I got involved with a company that had that same guy that sent me that tape years ago. I was now in a business with him. He was the upline. He was the big leader over there. And he was training us and teaching us. And then there was another mentor that was close to the hip. He was really close to me, and he was able to train us. Now, he had a leadership group, and I wasn't qualified to be in that leadership group. But obviously, he saw something in me that I didn't see. So he allowed me to hang around that leadership group. So I started hanging around the people that were doing the top producing, that were making the numbers and hitting the goals and stuff like that. I just started hanging around them. But the biggest thing I learned to do was shut up. I listened, I took notes, white paper and blue ink. That's all I did was take a bunch of notes and listen to every word they said. And then from that point on, I started learning what they were doing, and then I started doing what they were doing. I started learning what they taught and doing what they taught, and I started getting a level of success. And so, but the big thing that happened with me is I made a decision I was going to be successful. So what I started asking for things I couldn't do, and I didn't really qualify or earn. I'd ask, can I get up and do some training? And they said, well, Steve, you're not prepared for training. I said, I understand, but can I do it anyway? Even though I was shy, even though I was insecure, even though I had no skill set in speaking in front of people, I asked to do it anyway. So when they said yes, guess what I did? I went and enrolled at the JC College on speaking classes. And I went and took speaking classes at the JC College. I went and joined Toastmasters so I could learn how to present in front of people. I went and there was one other thing I did that was very important. I took some acting classes so I can get in front of a camera and learn to speak before I was able to get in front of that group and speak. Now, when I got up there, I still bombed. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't great the first time. It was horrible. It was supposed to be an hour-long training. It took 15 minutes because I was just pacing back and forth looking at the front row. That was my first time. It was horrible. But the most important thing, I did it.
Right.
And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And I did it again. And I started going through the 4 levels, and I got better and better at it. So 2 things happened. One, I did the activity, my belief went up. I did the activity, my belief kept going up. So the more times I did it, my belief increased until it got to the point where I believed I could do it. Indeed. And that's when things started taking off.
Indeed. And I'll give you one guess. What color paper am I writing on and what color pen?
White paper with blue ink only. There's no other option because you'll remember the information 40% more. That's why.
I just think it's hilarious, and it's just awesome. It's just awesome. Okay, so you're going through this transition period. You've identified the things that you want, and obviously sales is key. And I think sales is key for, well, darn near everybody and anyone listening. So let me ask this question. Why do so many people start out with this negative neuroassociation, this negative connotation, this just bad image of the whole concept of selling and just not wanting to be that guy?
That's a great question. One of the things I found being a trainer in this industry is they misunderstand the word sales. See, they're so used to people being bad salespeople that they think all salespeople are bad. There's a difference. Just like there's bad doctors, but all doctors aren't bad. There's bad cooks, but all cooks aren't bad. There's bad restaurants, but all restaurants aren't bad. So the word sell has been synonymous with bad. That's the first thing. But if you really understand what selling means, all you're doing is becoming a person of influence. That's all it is. We're influencing things. My kids are some of the best salespeople there are. They influence me to buy them candy, take them to the 99-cent store. I mean, last night we were all buying soccer balls. They're great at influencing, and because they don't know any different. So all you're doing is influence. But here's the difference between good salespeople and bad. Bad salespeople try to influence people with stuff they don't want or need. What I teach people to do is I teach them to be a pro and help them to learn how to sell things that people want and need. If they don't want it or need it, I won't sell it to them. See, even if someone needs something, but they don't want it, I won't sell it to them. Here's why. I want people that want what I have. not just because I can convince them. I could overcome any objection someone gives me. I could motivate them and inspire them and convince them, even though it's in their best interest. But guess what? Those people end up being chargebacks. Those people end up, using a 3-day right of rescission when they come out of the ether. Those people end up, having a bad mouth about you and your business because you convinced them to do something they didn't want to do. Les Brown said it best. He said, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So that's why I do business with people that want to. And so if you can help people understand that selling is not bad, bottom line, right? Remember this sentence: nothing moves until something is sold.
Agreed. Now, with that being the case, I've got to I have to ask, is this the genesis? Is this the reason, this passion that we're all hearing? Is this why Power Sales University now exists and why it came about?
Oh, absolutely. This is why it came about. Up until this point, all we had were books and takes and seminars and weekend programs to teach people, sales training and stuff like that. And then you get up and you run to the back of the room to buy the tapes and books, which is not bad. It's a good system. There's a lot of great trainers that teach that. But what I've learned is a lot of the time they teach the what and why, the how you have to buy. And I started to figure that out by going to seminar after seminar and seminar, not figuring out how to do this stuff, not figuring out how to do a lot of things. But what I learned is, there's no such thing as a university, a college that takes people through the most important thing, the 4 levels of learning. If you want to learn something, it's very challenging to learn it on a weekend workshop. Very challenging to get it to the 4th stage. I'm sorry. I mean, you could be the brightest guy. Right. You might get a couple good tips and a few good, tips that can help you make a lot of money, but you're not going to master it. A pro, it takes practice. There's a lot of things that go through getting things to the 4th level. And that's why I created Power Sales University, to take that person with no skill set, no belief in themselves, no confidence, no money, no ability, no friends and family that believe they can do it, with nothing, because I've been that person and I can walk them all the way to as big as they want to get. There's no limit, because all I do is I build the people, and then the people build the business.
Indeed.
So that's why Power Sales came about.
That sounds very familiar to me. So I understand it completely. Now, there are a lot of people who are out there, as you just mentioned, providing information via seminars and workshops. And for those of you who are wondering, a tape is what we had long before CDs and MP3s. I just want to make sure that we keep everybody with us together. So there were these things that they were physical, you touch them, and there was a Walkman, you could play it. And anyway, the point is, this was long before it was an MP3 download. This is how we had to do stuff. But you mentioned that there is a lot of individuals out there who are providing said information. So what makes Power Sales University different?
Well, we're going to get to what's different in just a small second. It's really interesting. It's something for you to consider as well. If you are out there, you're thinking you've got a better mousetrap, you are building a different business, you better have an idea as to why yours is better, different. I mean, even 5%, it doesn't have to be monumentally different. It just does have to be different, and you need to know what that is. So I'm going to definitely get you to his answer in just 1 second. But for those of you who may not know, I want to make sure that you are aware that if you wanted to pick up a copy of Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy, and find out some of the key points of what's necessary to go out there to raise capital, find investors, get deals done, you can do so. As a podcast listener, you can just go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Cashflowdiary.com/free book, or text book to 72000. That's 72,000. Text the word book to 72,000. And guess what? You'll get a copy, PDF copies straight to you. And for those of you who like the audio version, well, you got a special discount if you go that route as well. Anyway, be thinking about what makes your business different, what makes it special, and know how to share it. Let's see what he has to say.
That's a good question. What does make a difference? Well, here's a few things. One of them is that most of the programs out there, they have, like you said, great information. They have good books, they have good CDs, they have good workshops, and they train and they come in and teach you the material. But here's the challenge. A lot of the people that are teaching it have never been that person. This is one of the things I've learned. They teach it, but they haven't done it. In other words, they haven't been broke. They haven't been to the point where they had no skill set, none of that. A lot of people get in this industry because there's a lot of money in the sales industry, in the training industry. But like Jay, perfect example, the reason why you can do what you do is because you've been there. You can take a person from zero to as big as they want in real estate because you've done it. And that's one thing that's a difference between us and any other trainee out there. The gentleman that started Power Sales University, his name is Jason Evans. He actually created the content that's in there right now. I'm adding an entire plethora of new content that's going into the system because he didn't have an entire, he didn't have all the parts of sales and training available to him. But I'm bringing an entire world of sales and training that he didn't have. But Jason has been almost successful in everything he's done. I mean, you hear his background, almost everything he's done, he's been successful in the field. And he teaches it down to the way your eyes need to look, to your posture. I mean, he goes into the mindset. Every little piece of sales he teaches. And it's in the correct order. It's over a period of months, not in a weekend seminar. And then when you add the lead generation and the online marketing, the offline marketing, the networking skills that I'm bringing to the table, then when you bring all that and add that to what Jason has, plus my background history of taking a person with nothing and helping them become a superstar, when you add those two together, there isn't another training system on the planet anywhere remotely close to this.
So when it comes down to it, though, because I know what someone is saying right now, because they're real estate people, they're small business owners. They're like, well, can't I just hire a salesperson, or why do I have to do it? I don't want to do it. What's the other way? They're looking for that path of least resistance, kind of like I was. How can I avoid it in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, in other words, if you don't want to be in sales, can you still build a big business? Sure, you can. But you're going to have to influence someone.
Right.
You're going to have to influence those salespeople to work for you. You're going to have to influence the customer to give you a check. You're going to have to influence people that want to invest with you to give you $1 million to buy that property. You're going to have to influence people to want to buy or sell your homes for you. Remember, the word sales is influence. The better you can influence, the more success you will have, no matter what the business is. So if you're a parent and you want to be able to influence your children to do what you want them to do better, you need to learn sales, because it's an industry. So it's very important, no matter where you are in your life. That's a great thing to learn. It's one of the best skill sets to learn, and it's insane that it's not taught in our schools.
Oh, we're not going to start talking about the educational system. That would take this into a completely different direction. So you mentioned, though, the idea of the school of hard knocks that you had to go through. And but isn't there some value in at least in going out there and failing on your own?
Oh, no doubt about it. You're going to not have as much success as you want. I don't really look at it as failing because I learned. And that's the key. As long as you're learning something, you're not failing, you're just learning. See, I just learned 40 different ways of how not to do things. And then I figured it out on the 41st. That's all it was. I didn't fail at all. I learned something and I advanced the ball and I kept going. When you fail is when you quit. When you stop pursuing your dream. When you stop going after the knowledge of what it's going to take to get where you want to get. When you stop, then you failed. So you don't have to look at any of the challenges you win in your life, because right now, wherever you are in your life, if you're on this and listening to this podcast, if you're right now, you're starting to get into the real estate business and you're doing well and you're going towards your goal, everything you've done up to this point in your life has brought you right here. So you know what you do? Be thankful. Be grateful for what you learned and then brag about it. That's one thing I talk about to Jay all the time. I brag about my good things that's happened to me. And more importantly, I brag about the challenges and the failures. You know why? Because everyone in the room, when I do it, they say, wow, if he could do it, I could do it. And it raises their belief, and then we all do business together.
Indeed. So what would you say at this point in your career, what would be like the perfect individual that you've been able to work with? Who is it that's going to be best suited for what you guys are doing over there at Power Sales University?
Sure. Well, we have a big demographic, like I said, that there's a lot of different industries, but who we're really looking for right now is trying to help change the mindset of the small business industry. Because our bread and butter in this country or in the world pretty much is small businesses. That's who you can have the big businesses, but we need to get the small to medium sized businesses excelling. And the way that's going to happen is making more sales. And so what we've noticed is over the last, I think since 1980, the people, small businesses and medium sized, even large businesses used to train about a year and a half worth of training in sales. What do you think that percentage is today? What do you think that how much training they give their salespeople now?
None.
Pretty much a little bit more than none.
A little
it's
bit
1
more
week.
Than 1 week. Okay,
so
got
in 1980, they got a year's worth of training. Now they're getting about a week.
Wow.
That looks like, okay, let me teach you the product. Here's the product knowledge, and then go get them. That's not sales training.
Well, hey, you told me to go to the yellow pages and white pages. That was painful. I did it though.
Well, yeah, but I also said there's a skill of what to say when you called them too.
I'm just saying 1 hour of training, you probably shouldn't expect too much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can't get much out of 1 hour of training. I mean, but how many hours did I pour into you? How many hours? How many days did I pour into you? How many times did I force you to get in front of the room when you weren't ready? How many times did I get you to go do training when you weren't prepared? How many times did I get you to do the training and I leave the room forcing you to learn it?
Yeah.
How many times did I sit you in a meeting and we talk for hours and hours and hours on technique and specific and making sure you know what you're talking about? See, because I understand that if I build the people will build the business. Perfect example of you. Let's talk about that. I spent the time with you. I'm not getting a dime for what you've earned, but I am. You know why? Because you've helped more people own real estate. You've helped more people get better investments. You've helped more people get a lifestyle that they can now take care of their family. Who knows? I may have helped someone in training or helped someone in their business because you helped them in real estate. See, it all works. So if I help these small businesses that have a sales team increase their sales, then the business could prosper, the salespeople could prosper, and then everyone wins.
Agreed.
And so that's how I look at it. So a good customer for me is a business owner with 2 to 10 or 20 sales reps that understand the importance of sales training. I do free workshops and free seminars for them. I do a lot of things to help them. But the most important thing they got to know is that if you want more sales, train your people better.
Indeed. Now, I know at this moment, there's someone right now who is fired up and ready to reach out and track you down. So why don't you share with us what's going to be the best way for them to do exactly that, to reach out and track you down?
Okay, well, if their goal is to reach out and track me down, I'll give you a couple things you could do. One of them is if you want to just ask me a couple questions, just get to know me a little bit better, you could call me direct. I'll give everyone on your podcast my phone number direct. It's 949-542-6050. And then I'll also give you my email address as well. It's Stephen, Stephen, at powersalesuniversity.com. So I'll say that again. It's Stephen, Stephen, at powersalesuniversity.com. If you just want more information about me or some of the things we're talking about, you're welcome to contact me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So I got a question for you. Now, there's definitely a person or two who's in that stage of, they want to become that superhero entrepreneur. They're standing outside the superhero outfit store. They're picking out their tights, thinking of, hey, should I get a cape but they have that voice in the back of their head. And it's a voice that I know you're familiar with, and I know you've helped a ton of people with. It's that voice that comes up anytime we dare to be great and tells us why we might not be able to do it or why XYZ can't happen, etc. And they can hear it still, and it's still there. My question to you is, if there's a person who's hearing that voice at this particular moment, what would you have to say to them?
Okay. Well, the number one thing a person has to do, if they want to achieve more than they should achieve at the level that they're at right now, here's the number one thing you have to do. You have to make a decision to be there. That's the very first thing I did. I made a decision to never work for someone. And I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I've never had an hourly salary. I've been on straight commission my entire adult life because I made a decision. The second thing is I made a decision that I was going to achieve my goal. That I haven't even hit the whole thing yet. I'm still working towards it. Power Sales University is a big part of it, but I'm still going after it. Why? Because I made a decision to do something in our community, and I'm doing something with my nonprofit, and I'm using Power Sales University for the money to be able to make that happen. But the decision came first. Perfect example. If you want to become a brain surgeon, what's the first thing you do? Most people say they go to school. No, it's not the first thing you do. The first thing you do is you make a decision you're going to be a brain surgeon. Then you find $300,000 to go to school. You see, you don't just get $300,000, throw it at the school and say, let me see if it's going to work. Let me try it out. That would be insane. No, you make a decision first. Then you do whatever it takes to find the money. See, once the decision's made, how to do it is easy. And that's what I do with people. I help them make a decision. Someone wants to get trained in school, trained in education, trained in sales, make the decision first. How to find the money to do it? We'll figure that out. That's the easy part. Remember, you don't have a money problem, you have an idea problem. When the decision's made, the money will show up. If you want to be a real estate investor, you got to make a decision to be a real estate investor. But if Jay is doing coaching or he has a training program, don't worry about what it costs, but the decision has to be made. Once the decision's made, that's when things happen.
You know, so I was just sitting here thinking about the whole decision thing. I bet you there's someone wishing right now they're at a bus stop. They have decided to take the bus, but the bus is not here yet. They wish it was, but that's okay. It will eventually arrive, and you have to be sitting there when it does. And I there's just so many things that, I hope everyone was able to, pull off to the side of the road, stop listening, or, take some notes and make those things happen, because I think this is going to be one of those episodes where they listen to more than once just to make sure, did I get it all? And it's because you have so much to share and so much passion for people, way more than business in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about making money. One of the missions that I've learned to do now, and one of my missions is, in addition to building the people, here's one of the ways I built the people, especially when it comes to sales and sales training. It's helping them become a pro. My number one thing is help people become a pro. Here's why. Pros make money. Amateurs make excuses. Pros make money. And I use pro as an acronym. I'm going to give you the acronym right now. And if you just get this and you apply this to your life, it'll make all the difference. The word pro is an acronym. It means the P stands for this. A pro practices. A pro practices more than everyone else. The difference between you and the second person in your company, or the person who's number one in your company and you, the difference is they've practiced the correct activities more than you have. They do things differently than you do, and they've practiced more of it. So the first thing is, if you got to practice, and you probably have heard the saying, practice makes perfect, right? Well, that's a lie. Practice does not make perfect. As a matter of fact, there's nobody on this planet that's ever been perfect but one person, and you ain't him. And neither am I. But practice does not make perfect. That's one of the big problems, is that so many people are trying to be perfect before they go do something. You know what? Go do it wrong a few times, and you'll learn how to do it right. You don't need to, you just need to practice, and then that's the first thing. Practice makes perfect is wrong. But here's another thing people say. Perfect practice makes perfect. I'm sure you've heard that before, too. You know what? Perfect practice doesn't make perfect either, because there's no such thing as perfect practice. You're not perfect, so how can you practice perfectly? The only thing practice does is practice makes you better. That's it. Practice makes you better than you are today. And as long as you keep improving, as long as you keep advancing the ball, as long as you keep going forward, you'll eventually get where you want to get. So I help people understand that mindset is you got to become a pro. So that's the number one thing is P, is you got to become a professional, and you got to practice. The second thing is R. A pro is a person who's responsible. They take responsibility for their success, and they take responsibility for their mistakes. They are responsible. They don't blame everyone else. They don't blame society, the real estate market, my family history, my past. No family and friends care about me. They don't say that. They say the reason why I'm not successful is because of me, because I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do it. So if I want to change that, I've got to change. Here's a sentence. If you want things in your life to change, you've got to change things in your life. And the two things you got to change is your thinking and you got to change your actions. See, the mindset I help people with being responsible is that if you want something different, you've got to become someone different. So that's very important. When it comes to responsibility, you've got to take responsibility, saying that's it, period. I'm making a decision today. I'm going to be the best at what I do. And if you get that mindset, you're on your way to being a pro. So pro number one, practices. Number two, they are responsible for their success and their lack of success. But number three, they're optimistic. That's what the O stands for. They're optimistic. They can see the future. They can see around corners. In other words, they can see what's not in front of them right now. You know, being optimistic is so important. I heard a story about Walt Disney years ago. And Walt Disney, when he had built Disneyland, you know, he was alive and built Disneyland. But, you know, he died 5 years before Disney World was actually even created. And these two ladies were sitting there at the table. They were talking. And one of them said, well, it's too bad Walt never saw Disney World before he died. And the other lady said, oh, yes, he did see it. That's why it's here. You see, he had vision. And so people that are pro, they're optimistic. They can see the future. They can see what's going to happen way before it happens. See, I already knew I was going to be in the position I am. I knew that when I was 18 in 1988. I'm now 48. I'm 48 now. But I saw it back then. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen. But I made a decision it was going to happen, and I did whatever it took to get to this point. And that's what I help people understand and get their mindset to shift. If I can get there, the money is easy. For them to coach is easy. For them to train is easy. For them to get to they want to get is easy. With Jay, one of the easiest person I've ever trained because he was the most coachable. He had a high willingness to learn and a high willingness to accept change. And because of that, all I had to do was steer him in the right direction. He built his empire. All I did was give him the tools to do it. And so that's what, you know, what's so important here is becoming a pro. Make that decision.
I think somebody just did. I can tell you for certain the phone, the email, somebody's tracking you down, trying to pull over right now and making that happen. So could you do us a favor? Repeat the contact information one more time, because I know they're thinking, man, I got to scrub back and rewind and hear this again. Just tell them one more time how they can find you, how you can track you down.
Sure. I'm going to give them a couple of things. One, I'm going to give them my phone number. If you want to talk to me, just ask a couple of questions. My direct number is 949-542-6050. And then I'm going to give you my email also. It's Stephen, Stephen, @Power Sales University. And then I actually want to give them, if there's anybody that wants sales training or even wants a free training session, I'll do something for you. I'll put my money where my mouth is. If you're a company and you have a sales team that you want your sales team to be trained, or if you're an individual person and you want some training, I'll give you a free hour of sales training. And all you got to do is go book it on my calendar. My calendar is meetwithsteven.com. That's www.meetwithsteven.com. And I'll do that for you. I'll give you that free training.
That's awesome. That's generous. I have a feeling you're going to be busy. I definitely want to say thanks, but not only for being here today and sharing your wisdom, your insight, but I also want to say thanks for, yes, the amount of care and concern and how you do build people so people can build a business, namely how you have helped and built me so that I might have something to offer to other people as well.
Well, you're welcome, Jay. And I really love you a lot, man. You're one of my best friends. I appreciate you. And I just love watching what you do. And I talk about you all the time. So I appreciate you. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share and be on this show with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means if you said to yourself, I should call him, that means stop, get your phone, call him now. Why? Because he's going to be busy. If you said, hey, I should probably make that appointment, remove the word probably and get your phone and go right now and make the appointment. Because here's what I do know. You shouldn't leave the scene of a decision without taking measurable steps towards it. And today, you've been given many, many reasons why you must become a pro. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.